Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network Novel. Meimang. Meimo's opening game, stir-frying Captain Marvel. From then on, Suyi became the white moonlight that female heroes competed for. Captain Marvel. I came first, Ono is mine. Black Widow. Ono said my sister Law loves me the most. Crimson Witch. Brother Wild has shown kindness to me, and I will repay him with my own heart. Invisible Woman. Feel free, I'll go first. Thunder Goddess. Why don't we have a fight? Iron Man, Team USA, Hulk, Thor. The enemy has all hit their doorstep. Can you hurry up? Female heroes. Our enemies female. Sisters form a group. Don't let her close to Ono. Suyi. 365 days a year, can you give me a day off? Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001, Auntie, come on, I'm only 8 years old. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In 1995. In a residential building in a suburban area of the United States. Young Nick Fury was washing the utensils while joking with the blonde woman beside him. His joke wasn't too cold, but the blonde Carol Danvers couldn't laugh. As Captain Marvel, she had just engaged in a big battle during the day. Drive away a group of Creole people who intend to attack Earth. This was originally something worth celebrating. But the great love in Carol Danvers's heart made her drift towards the universe. Saving the Earth, she can no longer arouse her interest. She only wants to seek benefits for the suffering families in the whole universe now. For her ideas, people like Nick Fry have no position to say anything. We can only choose respect. But in the second-floor room. An 8-year-old boy, however, showed great dissatisfaction with this. The boy's name is Suyi. It is an Asian orphan adopted by Carol Danvers. Since listening to Carol Danvers finish talking about going to space, Suyi has been very unhappy. As a traveler, one can be adopted by Carol Danvers. This was originally a perfect start. Through this relationship, infiltrate the internal structure of the Divine Shield Bureau. Finally taking charge of the Divine Shield Bureau, and even changing the day of the Eagle Sauce family, is not a fantasy. After all, Nick Fury, who is so arrogant, relies on the courage given by Carol Danvers to be so tough. But now, Carol Danvers is leaving Earth to rescue the entire universe. Suyi felt that Carol Danvers must have a serious illness in his mind. A normal person would never do such a thing. At that time, please first maintain peace on Earth. Or is it not good to improve the technological level of the Earth? Take the talents you acquired on Earth to the universe. You really great love knows no bounds. If you really don't know how to use this ability, just give it to me. Suyi is feeling stuffy. Suddenly, the door was knocked on. Hi. Little Gummy. Auntie is coming in. Carol Danvers's voice rang outside the door. Upon hearing this sound, Suyi became even angrier. Little Gummies. Who do you have in mind? I'm just young. Give me another 10 years. No, 5 years. Do you believe it or not? I'll just kill you. Although there are 10,000 objections. But Suyi is only 8 years old after all. I can only reluctantly accept the fact that I am just a piece of candy. At this moment, Suyi's body suddenly shook. There is something inside the body that seems to suddenly burst open. Immediately afterwards, he felt that his body seemed to undergo some inexplicable changes. Suyi instinctively wanted to feel the specific changes. Just then, with a creak, the door was pushed open. Carol Danvers, who was carrying a plate of dim sum, came in with his head. Hi. Does anyone want dessert after dinner? No. Suyi snorted coldly, don't turn your head. I don't want to see Carol Danvers's face. Carol Danvers in front of him, although he did something similar to Captain Marvel in the movie version. But there is a big difference in appearance compared to the surprised lady with a square face. The facial lines are softer, and the face shape is also a handsome melon seed face. More importantly, her evil is not insignificant. The body proportions are even more perfect and outrageous. The more it was like this, the less Suyi wanted her to leave the earth. However, he is too young and speaks lightly. We can only use anger as a fearless protest. Across from him, Carol Danvers walked quickly over. Caught Suyi in his arms. Sorry, it's Auntie's fault. Suyi snorted coldly and turned his head to stare over. So, what's wrong with you? But as soon as he turned his head, Suyi suddenly realized. Carol Danvers looked at herself with a slightly off-topic expression. In the past, Carol Danvers looked at Suyi with the care of elders and juniors. But now, in Carol Danvers' eyes, there seemed to be an extra touch of love. The kind between men and women. Suyi suddenly became a bit uneasy. Auntie, you. What's wrong with you? Carol Danvers shook her head with a flickering gaze. Auntie, it's okay. Perhaps because I have to leave, I feel a bit reluctant in my heart. You let Auntie hug you well. Suyi suddenly felt a bit scared. Auntie. Don't do this. I'm still young. I'm only 8 years old. How sorry you are. Carol Danvers, however, did not know when he had found the switch. Just exclaim in surprise, my goodness. This. It's not too small. Carol Danvers never thought of it. Her farewell night with Suyi turned out to be like this. Fortunately, the sound insulation effect of this house is quite good. Otherwise, she wouldn't have the face to be a human. Suyi never expected it. I was actually pushed backwards. And the other party's strength is too great, he has no room for resistance at all. However, Suyi quickly reacted. And start utilizing their gender advantages. Start a massive counterattack. Before crossing over, Suyi also worked as a chef. He is very skilled in stir-fried tofu, stir-fried kidney, and fried abalone. It directly shocked Carol Danvers. Wait until the latter half of the night when the extra meal is over. Carol Danvers is preparing to leave Earth with the survivors of the Skuru people. I am still savoring the deliciousness of those few dishes in my heart. Tasting this stir-fried dish from across the ocean for the first time. Carol Danvers also has an endless aftertaste. Even she secretly made a decision in her heart. After leaving Earth, just orbit around nearby galaxies. It's best not to be too far away. If you want to eat stir-fried vegetables again, you can come back anytime. Soon, Carol Danvers, enveloped in flowing light, flew into space. At this time, Suyi was concerned about the departure of Carol Danvers. There is no longer as much resentment as before. His body and soul have just been elevated. But this is only one aspect. More importantly, just now, he suddenly felt it. Carol Danvers had an energy flowing down his body. Although this energy is still a bit weak. But Suyi felt it very clearly. If this energy could be further enhanced, perhaps I would be the next amazing captain. Suyi immediately felt that the future was full of hope. And he suddenly realized. Although I did not receive the standard system for the Pathfinder, it seems that the golden finger has already been credited. It's the thing that suddenly exploded inside my body just now. Think of Carol Danvers's performance after entering the room. Suyi felt that the golden finger he had obtained was very likely the legendary succubus constitution. This is also relatively easy to explain why, at the age of only 8, he was able to stir up Captain Marvel. And this can also be confirmed from Maria Lembo, who bid farewell to Carol Danvers together. When Maria Lembo saw Suyi just now, her eyes were the same as Carol Danvers. There's clearly something wrong. 002, 10 years later, I will also be Captain Marvel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Maria Lembo's previous relationship with Su Yi was not very good. She always believed that if Carol Danvers wanted to adopt a child, she would either choose a little white or a little black. Anyway, it shouldn't be a little yellow person. I have always had some resentment towards Su Yi. But now, her gaze has completely changed. Becoming similar to when Carol Danvers first entered the door. Even giving Su Yi a feeling that she will pounce in the next second. Feeling the strange look in Maria Lembo's eyes. Su Yi sighed helplessly. Sigh. My damn charm. And how can we turn off the attraction of this enchanting physique to the opposite sex? Fortunately, this ability seems to be ineffective for both the little girl and Nick Fry, who is also a man. Otherwise, he would probably find it difficult to move any further. To be honest, Maria Lembo is quite good. Looking among Auntie Mo. And in universe number 838, he also became the Marvel captain of that universe. However, Su Yi still couldn't accept it due to personal aesthetic reasons. So I can only say I'm sorry. Su Yi gently took a step towards Nick Fury beside him. Uncle Do, can I follow you in the future? Nick Fry was stunned for a moment. Didn't Carol entrust you to Maria? Also, my name is Nick Fury. You can call me Uncle Nick and say, it's not a solo uncle. Su Yi shook his head. I saw Aunt Carol Danvers give you a pager. I think you can get in touch with her more easily. So, it's more convenient to follow you. Moreover, I am very interested in the lives of agents. So, can I join any of your games? Uncle Do, it's the National Land Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau. Nick Fury frowned and said the name of the unit, then added. Also, call me Uncle Nick. Su Yi nodded obediently. Good Uncle Do, but the name of your unit is too difficult to remember, why not just call it the Divine Shield Bureau? Nick Fury raised his eyebrows. That's not bad either. And his only remaining I blinked. Finally, I gave up. You can call it whatever you want, it's your freedom. When Carol Danvers turned into a meteor and completely disappeared. Several people also withdrew their gaze. And Su Yi finally temporarily closed his strong attraction to the opposite sex. So, when Nick Fury suggested leaving with Su Yi, Maria Lembo did not raise any objections. It was Monica Lembo, who was also a child, who expressed her reluctance towards Su Yi. But no one will listen to her. Soon, Su Yi followed Nick Fury and left the place where he had lived for 8 years. I went to the bustling big city of New York. During the 10 years here, Su Yi first studied and understood his own constitution. I have achieved the ability to freely unleash the enchanting power of the demon. And the ability to transfer Carol Danvers to him was fully developed. This process takes longer than Su Yi imagined. However, the result is also very satisfactory. Nowadays, Su Yi possesses superpowers and flying abilities. It can fly directly into outer space, bask in sunlight and absorb energy. It can also emit energy waves. And, entering an explosive state, the body can fly at lightning speed, and even make a cosmic leap. However, he did not tell anyone about his abilities. Even Carol Danvers and Nick Fury. In their hearts, Su Yi was just a tall, muscular, handsome but ordinary earthling. Carol Danvers followed her previous idea and would secretly return to Earth every once in a while. Have a meal of Su Ye's stir-fried homemade food. And Nick Fry also arranged for agents from the Divine Shield Bureau to regularly teach Su Yi some combat and technological skills. In Nick Fury's heart, there was never a curve-saving idea of approaching Carol Danvers by taking care of Su Yi. Unfortunately, he didn't know. As Su Yi grew up, the frequency of Carol Danvers eating stir-fried homemade food also increased. At first, it was only once a year. Now, in less than 3 months, she will come back once. And it stays for 3 days. During these 3 days, Suyi doesn't do anything else. Apart from sleeping and eating, it's just stir-frying. And in these 10 years, Carol Danvers has never seen Nick fry. It's really like what she said when she sent out the pager. There's nothing big about the Earth being destroyed, don't bother me. The only thing that noticed something unusual about Suyi was actually the yuan-devouring beast that looked just an orange cat. From the first time I saw Suyi, the devouring beast named Gugu behaved very well. No matter how Suyi caresses and rubs it, or even forcibly checks its gender, it has all chosen to comply. This seems to be Suyi's bloodline suppression after obtaining the Meimo constitution. Meimo is also a demon. The devouring beast gurgled and seemed to sense the demonic aura on Suyi's body. I directly chose to acknowledge the owner. Suyi naturally would not refuse this. With the devouring beast, it is equivalent to having a mobile dimensional space bag. Some things that are inconvenient to carry with you can be swallowed directly into your stomach. Just take it out and use it when needed. For example, the universe Rubik's Cube that was previously swallowed by Gugu. Now it has become Suyi's private collection. If Nick Fury wants to use it, he has to report and apply to Suyi. In addition, Suyi also allowed Gugu to swallow several Kun-style fighter jets. And, the most advanced fighter jets and bombers of the US military, such as F-22 and B-2. Other sports cars, off-road vehicles, speedboats, and so on. It also has everything. That is to say, the space carrier has not been built yet. Otherwise, Suyi would also directly stuff a ship into Gugu's belly. However, there will be opportunities in the future. During the past decade, Suyi not only mastered and improved his strength, but also masturbated cats. I also started to get in touch with the internal affairs of the Divine Shield Bureau through Nick Fury's relationship. Nick Fury didn't think it was against him, but instead happily nurtured him. The teachers who came to teach and train him are also the ACE agents in the ACE. This includes Clint Barton, a Hawkeye who teaches archery and weapon combat. Melinda May, an Iron Horse who teaches firearms, close combat skills, and driving skills. And Maria Hill, who is responsible for taking care of Suyi's daily life. Nick Fury is, after all, a man who is not good at taking care of people. And now he has been promoted to director. I often get busy and won't go home for many days. So he handed Suyi over to his deputy Maria Hill. So Suyi, who was already 18 years old, changed his residence again. 003, when the charm opens, a fierce woman becomes a bento woman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Please come in. Maria Hill brought Suyi into a spacious high-rise apartment. Pointing to one of the rooms, he said to him, "In the future, that will be your room. There is water and snacks in the refrigerator in the kitchen. If you need them, go get them yourself. Also, the room over there is mine. You are not allowed to enter without my permission, do you understand?" Maria Hill still has some resistance towards helping take care of Suyi. She was parachuted directly from the Superior Department of the Divine Shield Bureau to serve as Nick Fury's deputy. Before coming, I had thought that Nick Fury would give her small shoes and cause trouble. I just didn't expect my first job. Surprisingly, he was helping to take care of the child. It's 2005 now, and Maria Hill is only 23 years old. Let a 23-year-old girl take care of an 18-year-old young man. Although Suyi is tall, beautiful with white teeth, handsome and tough. My body is also full of beautiful muscles due to years of exercise. But after all, this is the child of the director's family. And I am very familiar with many people in the Divine Shield Bureau. If Maria Hill had just arrived at the Divine Shield Bureau, she would have slept with the director's child. How will she continue to carry out her work in the future? She will become the laughing stock of the entire Divine Shield Bureau. Maria Hill believes that this is Nick Fury's downward pressure on her and also a conspiracy intended to make her retreat from difficulties. And what she needs to do is to stick to her original intention. Never take any outrageous actions. And strive to do a good job as a nanny. Sui didn't pay much attention to Maria Hill's thoughts. What he cares about is the identity of Maria Hill. Maria Hill was sent by the Superior of the Divine Shield Agency. The Superior of the Divine Shield Bureau is the International Security Council of United Village. So, what she represents is actually the interests of the United Village. Not the Eagle Sauce family. At least on the surface, it should be like this. In the future, she should also do the same. As for Maria Hill's Eagle Sauce background, it is not a big problem for Suyi. Over the past decade, Suyi has also conducted a lot of research on his succulent physique. In addition to the ability to absorb and stir-fry objects, as well as the ability to switch on and off charm at will, he has developed several new abilities. The first one is the ability to output energy in reverse, helping to transform the body of the stir-fried object. This improvement includes but is not limited to improving physical fitness and shaping specific parts of the body. I have already tried this on Carol Danvers. In 10 years, the evil pair of Carol Danvers has grown by a whole size. This is the best proof. And the second ability is consciousness control. Suyi can to some extent control the consciousness of those who are enchanted by his own abilities. Let them take the initiative to do things they would never normally do. And they won't even realize the abnormality themselves. It is natural to assume that this is a correct decision made based on one's own values. And what Suyi wants to use against Maria Hill is this second skill. Quietly transforming her values. Then let her subjective consciousness shift from leaning towards Eagle Sauce to adhering to justice. And this justice is not the hegemony represented by Eagle Sauce. But it was proposed by another big shot in the United Village, a community with a shared future for mankind. Then, Suyi can have a lot of operating space. To achieve this goal, the first thing to do is still charm. Coincidentally, Maria Hill not only has a good figure, but also has longer legs than Carol Danvers. And the appearance is also very high, just right on Suyi's aesthetic point. So Suyi doesn't have any psychological discomfort either. After closing the apartment door, he immediately activated his charm ability. That room, right? Can you take me over and take a look, sister? Upon hearing Suyi's words, Maria Hill couldn't help but frown. The room is not locked, just go and check it yourself. What do you need? As she spoke, she turned back to look at Suyi. Subsequently, the furrowed brow was instantly smoothed out. Instead, there is a complex expression that includes appreciation, admiration, amazement, desire, and restraint. As Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers has an irresistible allure ability. Maria Hill, as an ordinary person, is no exception. Cough. Maria Hill finally suppressed the impulse in her heart. With a cough, he turned around and walked towards the room. Well, it's normal for you to be unfamiliar with this place since it's your first time here. I'll take you to take a look. As she spoke, she took the lead and opened the door to the room. The room is spacious and there isn't much to eat. A simple bed, a wardrobe, and a writing desk. Then there was nothing else. Maria Hill stood at the door and sideways let Suyi into the room. As the two passed by, Suyi could clearly hear a low moan. Later, after Suyi walked into the room, Maria Hill, however, was behind and closed the room door directly from inside. And it's locked. Ha! Suyi pretended to be puzzled and turned his head to look at Maria Hill. Sister, why did you close the door? And it also needs to be locked. Maria Hill shook her head in a flustered look. That. I just want to check if the door lock is broken. The door lock is fine, you pack your things first, I'll go cook. After speaking, she blushed and rushed out without looking back. Looking at Maria Hill's panicked figure, Sui burst into laughter. My seductive ability is indeed too strong. Being able to seduce a woman who was clearly wary of herself into a little fangirl who wanted to pounce. If we go to the street to open it up. Isn't it that women will be handed over to men in an instant? If it were all young urban girls, it would be fine. Just afraid of a few aunties weighing 200 or 300 pounds shaking his head, Sui closed the room door. Then he took out his phone. Just now, he disabled the charm skill. So Maria Hill was able to wake up from her lost state and escape the scene. The reason Sui did this was because his phone shook. Sui has 2 mobile phones, one of which is responsible for daily communication. The other one is a dedicated phone for the Divine Shield Bureau. Specially responsible for developing some offline contacts with him. Just now, it was this dedicated phone that vibrated. Sui took out his phone and a message appeared on it. Eagle Eye has launched an attack, destination, Budapest. The person who sent the message, signed Crossbone. Crossbones are clearly a code name, not a personal name. And the owner of this code is called Brock Rumlow. Originally, he turned into a villainous Crossbone later, now a special agent of the Divine Shield Bureau. Actually, this guy is a member of the Hydra team. But now, he has added another layer of identity. One of Su Ye's downlines. 004, target, a wave of black widows. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Ye's charm ability is not completely ineffective for men. It's just different from arousing a woman's lust. When used on men, it simply disrupts their consciousness and controls the other person. It's a bit similar to the ability of the spiritual scepter used by Loki during the period of Full Yen Ai. Through this ability, Sui has developed many downlines in the Divine Shield Bureau. It has appeared in movies. Like Crossbone Brock Rumlow, Bald Glasses Man Sitwell Agent, and so on. In addition, there are many passers-by agents that are not seen in movies. Some of these people are pure agents of the Divine Shield Bureau. There are also many people like Brockler, who have dual identities as agents of the Divine Shield Bureau and members of the Hydra. After Sui took control of them, it was like simultaneously infiltrating the interior of the Divine Shield Bureau and the Hydra. He will know the actions and arrangements on both sides as soon as possible. The message sent by Blockromlo was one that Sui had warned in advance. Let him pay attention to the movements of Hawkeye Clint Barton. Sui only knew that in a few years, Eagle Eye and Black Widow encountered each other in Budapest. And what happened? Then, my elder sister Natasha Romanoff defected to Eagle Sauce. And became a family-like relationship with Eagle Eye. But he is not sure about the specific time. So we arranged a few offline activities and paid attention to this matter. Blockromlo was just the first to know this news. Quickly, the bald and bespectacled agent Sitwell also sent the same message. After confirming this news, Sui didn't even bother to eat. Just push the door open and leave. Sister, I'll go out first and come back later. When Maria Hill, who was cooking noodles in the kitchen, chased out, Su Ye's trace had disappeared. Why are you in such a hurry? I still want to give you food downstairs. Listening to the fading footsteps outside the door, Maria Hill could only sigh helplessly. Forget it, go take a shower first. Spray some perfume and wake up with a bottle of red wine. Quietly wait for him to come back. Maria Hill hurriedly prepared to go with interest. After Sui left the door, he immediately jumped up and soared into the clouds. At this time in New York, the sky had already darkened. Sui did not use the energy burst state, and there was no colorful streamer on his body. So I don't worry about being detected by people or radar. Soon, Sui answered the phone of the bald glasses man, Agent Sitwell. Help me switch to Eagle Eye's channel. Aye, sir. On the communication end, the bald and bespectacled Agent Sitwell did not hesitate and had a high level of execution. Soon, Suyi was connected to a new communication channel. Not long after, the sound of several agents chatting inside the Kun fighter jet came from inside. Clint, is your wife Laura giving birth soon? Director Fry actually sent you out on a mission at this time, it's really inhumane. It's not a big deal, is it? The director will make arrangements and take care of Laura. Speaking of which, the director is really good at taking care of people. Sam's wife is pregnant, and he also took care of her. Hush. What you're saying seems like Sam's wife got pregnant, all thanks to the director. It cannot be said that it is all the director's credit, but the director's contribution is definitely not small. Why is this becoming more and more awkward as you listen to it? Don't be awkward, when you get married in the future, your wife will also have to ask the director to take care of her. That's right, whether everyone can successfully embrace the child depends entirely on the director. The director is working so hard. I thank his whole family. A group of male spies were speaking vulgar jokes on the channel without restraint. Making colors has always been the most popular pastime for men. But after all, everyone is a specially trained agent. There is also a sense of propriety in telling jokes. As long as it's not said too much, those who are told in jokes cannot be angry. Soon, their fighter jets arrived near Budapest. And these agents also put aside their jokes and entered a state of combat. The field team where Clint Barton is located has only 12 members. But in Budapest, there are over 100 local agents waiting for them. These people were all arranged in advance by Alexander Pierce, one of the leaders of the Divine Shield Agency. Their task is to eradicate a terrorist armed group lurking in Budapest. Actually, it's just a group of Black Widows. Black Widow is a secret agent trained by the Red House, a secret organization of the world's fur bears. The entire training process was quite cruel, bloody, and inhumane. The trained agents are basically nothing more than emotional killing machines. Black Widow is the common code name for these agents. Not exclusive to my sister. Later on, Mao Xiong split up, and the Red House and Black Widows were not inherited by the Big Mao heir Mao. But it was controlled by the former head of the Red House, Drakov. And for many years afterwards, he continued to engage in illegal violent activities. The business covers a wide range, and the footprints of Black Widows are spread all over the world. At the same time, many countries around the world also detest them deeply. Want to get rid of it quickly. But these Black Widows have two strong abilities, even stronger than many special agents of the Divine Shield Bureau. So it's difficult to catch them. Not to mention blocking a whole line of Black Widows. All participants attach great importance to this operation. The over 100 people in front of Clint Barton were just the first batch of action personnel. As long as there is a need, there will be more people in the future, ready to step up at any time. On the other side, in an apartment building somewhere in the city. More than 10 Black Widows are gathering in a room. Our mission this time is this person. Natasha, with wine-red hair and a collagen-covered face, stood at the table. Reaching out and touching a photo on the desktop. According to intelligence, this person has a large team of bodyguards under his command. And he is very cautious, making it difficult for strangers to approach him. So we must be very careful in this action. No errors are allowed in any aspect. Do you understand? Understood. Next to them, Black Widows with different skin tones, but without exception, were all young, slim, and muscular women, echoing in unison. Okay. Natasha clapped her hands. Now everyone, go rest and gather energy. 3 hours later, we'll take action. Just as the Black Widows were gathering their energy. The special agents of the Divine Shield Bureau and those local agents have started to take action. 005, End, Capture 1 Little Sister Octopus. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hundreds of people launched attacks on more than 10 people. There is no need for any organization at all. Just push it flat. Moreover, the whole Budapest is the eyeliner of the Divine Shield Bureau and local agents. Including the property management and cleaning staff in the apartment building where the Black Widows are located. Even the mission of the Black Widows this time is fake. The target character is fake, the action plan is fake, and the action time is even more fake. In fact, it was a transaction between Drakov and Alexander Pierce. They are just chess pieces abandoned by Drakov. It was thrown to the Divine Shield Bureau for brushing records. On the one hand, acting on Alexander will increase political capital for you. At the same time, it can also to some extent quell the anger of countries around the world. Let people relax their vigilance towards the existence of Black Widows. So that Drakov can continue to do his grey work better. It can be said to be a win-win situation. The only losers are these abandoned Black Widows. They wouldn't even know they were abandoned until they died. Because they are already under mental control. The entire meaning of life is to fight and fight until death. There is no need for one's own thinking. So, when the Divine Shield Bureau and local agents hit the door, the Black Widows, although somewhat puzzled, did not panic. They quickly entered a state of combat. And the battle between the two sides also entered a white heat from the beginning. The Black Widows have strong combat effectiveness. Each of them is a top-notch spy trained by Red House using the method of raising goo. Those who can graduate are those whose hands are stained with the blood of several or even dozens of contemporaneous trainees. So let's not talk about the local agents who haven't seen much blood before. Even the seasoned special agents of the Divine Shield Bureau are their younger brothers in front of them. In one face, someone from the Divine Shield Bureau collapsed. Local agents have directly killed or injured more than 10 people. Although eagle-eye long-range bows and arrows deal high damage, they are equipped with various types of arrows. But he himself is just an ordinary person after all. Without the super-strong physical fitness of Captain America. Even more so, one cannot casually raise a shield and ignore the barrage of gunfire from all directions, chopping melons and vegetables all the way. His archery effect is good, but it cannot provide a decisive advantage. The Black Widows relied on the environment inside the apartment building and fought hard against the agents. For a moment, the explosions of various firearms, howitzers, and grenades kept coming and going. You can hear it clearly from a few blocks away. As time passed, the scale of victory also began to tilt unstoppably. After all, Black Widows are few and isolated. Soon someone ran out of bullets in their hands and was forced to engage in close combat. And casualties are inevitable. Looking at the fallen member of the Black Widow, Natasha's heart began to tug. As a ruthless assassin, she is not reluctant to part with these comrades in arms. But rather some rabbits die and foxes mourn. The fallen companion now is the next fallen self. If this continues, one will eventually die. Natasha certainly doesn't want to die. But surrendering is definitely not going to happen. The Black Widow's creed does not include the word surrender. All Natasha can do now is gather her remaining companions and firearms. Condense into a rope and charge outward. Even if only one person can escape alive, it is still victory. And if there really is someone who can rush out alive, why can't that person be themselves? Quickly, the remaining 6 people who were capable of moving bullets gathered together. They are also all injured, and their weapons and ammunition are seriously insufficient. Let's go ahead together. We only have this one chance. A few people glanced at each other, with resolute expressions on their faces. However, at this moment, a strange voice suddenly came from behind them. No, you don't have a chance. What kind of person? The Black Widows were shocked and turned their guns towards the place where the sound came from. However, the next second, they only felt a tingling sensation in their necks. Then he lost consciousness. Until the moment they fell, they didn't know how they had fainted. Including Natasha. In the dimly lit room, Suyi scanned several black widows back and forth. Finally, he sighed. Sure enough, it seems that I am still the most beautiful and coquettish, Mississippi. Shaking his head, Suyi lifted Natasha from the ground. Then he dodged and left the room. The black widows on the ground are naturally taken in by the special agents of the Divine Shield Bureau. As for how they write war reports, it's not about Suye's business. In the darkness, a figure swiftly shuttles across the Atlantic Ocean. Suyi did not disturb anyone from New York to Budapest. On the return journey, I didn't want to disturb anyone. So flying on your own is the most low-key and reasonable choice. But now the situation is a bit different. When he came, he was alone. On the return journey, he brought a Natasha with him. There are many details about how two people fly and what kind of posture to use. Firstly, you cannot use a princess to hug you. Experienced people know that when the human body passes through a fluid horizontally, the resistance is the greatest. The Philippine fishing team has a strong voice in this matter. It's not possible to carry it on your back. Suyi cannot hand over his back to an unknown assassin. Even if she doesn't cause any actual harm to herself. So there's only one last choice left. Place Natasha in front of you, like an octopus, and plate her on yourself. In this way, it can reduce wind resistance without hindering Suye's flight movements. Perfect. In order to avoid attracting the attention of spy satellites, Suye's flight speed was not fast. On the way, Natasha also woke up from her coma. Is he the ace agent who has experienced great storms and waves? After a brief moment of confusion, Natasha quickly made the optimal choice in the current situation. Tighten the strength of your arms and legs. Prevent yourself from falling off, Suyi. Wake up. Suyi smiled and spoke up. And Natasha also instantly realized. It's you. The person who suddenly appeared in the room just now. Did you save me? Suyi nodded and shook his head again. That person is me. But it's hard to say if it's not the person who saved you. I just took you away from Budapest. But who can guarantee that I won't take you to another hell? After listening to Suye's words, Natasha tightened her grip again. No. Since you took me away from there, naturally you won't let me go to hell again. Even, you can take me to heaven, right? Feeling Natasha's movements, Suyi immediately became happy. You don't know, do you want me to take you to heaven? Natasha curled up the corner of her mouth. What, can't you? 006, Housekeeper, thousands of miles in a day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Suye's anger quickly came up. No way. Who do you look down upon? He immediately let go of his hand. Then, Natasha was surprised to find out. I was picked up. Hiss. Natasha took a deep breath. Are you human? Suyi shrugged his shoulders. It depends on how you understand it. Suyi indeed exceeds the scope of ordinary people. Without any auxiliary equipment, it can fly directly in the air. This is definitely not something that ordinary people can do. So, he should be considered Superman now. Natasha made a decision in an instant. Although she lacks experience, her attitude is very resolute. Suyi didn't know what to say anymore. Flying at a speed of several hundred meters per hour at an altitude of several thousand meters. What 1,000 miles? Who was the last person to complete this achievement? So far, Suyi has not activated his enchanting ability. But Natasha seemed to be enchanted. However, Suyi may also understand Natasha's thoughts. Facing Superman like Suyi, there is definitely no possibility for her to kill the opponent and regain her freedom. Not to mention anything else, Suyi is now going to throw her down from high altitude. She will die without a burial ground in an instant. However, since Suyi rescued her from Budapest and flew far away with her, It's definitely not about wanting her to die, it's about having a purpose. As the ace spy Black Widow, Natasha didn't want everything to be led by Su Ye's nose. Even if she is kidnapped, she still wants to have a certain degree of initiative. And what she needs to do now is to firmly grasp the initiative in her own hands. Some people say that men conquer women by conquering the world. And women conquer the world by conquering men. Natasha came up with this idea. Having seen through all of this, Su Yi remained silent. Want to conquer me? It also depends on whether you have that ability. Natasha soon realized that she was wrong. Her ideas are still a bit too childish. Su Yi is really Superman now. However, Natasha did not feel a sense of defeat in her heart, but instead was grateful to Su Yi. Just now. Although Su Yi did not actively use the charm ability. But Natasha was still influenced by the enchanting abilities. The mental control on the body was also directly broken through. Moreover, the self-destructing devices that could be remotely controlled by the red house on her body had already been removed by Su Yi. So from this moment on, Natasha is free now. She is no longer the Black Widow of the dead under the control of the red house. You can choose your own future life now. The first thing Natasha did after breaking free from mental control. Just keep going. When Su Yi returned to New York, it was already late at night. This night's round trip between New York and Budapest. It has consumed a lot of physical and mental energy. He is also a bit tired. The offline agent arranged a hotel room, and he stayed with Natasha. Meanwhile, Maria Hill had already curled up on the sofa and fallen asleep. The food on the table remained untouched, but the red wine was completely consumed. Maria Hill originally intended to rebel once with the help of alcohol. But unexpectedly, in the end, one could only drink and get drunk alone. Before falling asleep, Maria Hill secretly made a decision. She needs to investigate Su Ye's classmate relationship carefully. Let's see who the female classmate who defeated herself and made Su Ye unable to return home is. Although Su Yi didn't say who to look for. But Maria Hill is very certain that he will go find his female classmate. Su Yi is 18 years old and indeed has reached the age of dating. If Maria Hill hadn't become a spy, she would have been in love long ago. She originally thought she could make up for the lost youth caused by work. But I didn't expect to fail before I took action. She must know who she lost to. The next morning, Su Yi was awakened by Run. After a glance, Su Yi immediately pulled Natasha up. Time is running out, I have to go to school. As he spoke, he stood up and began to dress. Natasha next to her had a bewildered expression on her face. Going to school? Who is learning? No wonder she didn't react for a moment. Who would have thought that a flying Superman who rescued her from a forest of bullets would still be a student? Natasha suddenly realized that she had become an old cow by chance. Can you drive? Su Yi interrupted Natasha's thoughts. Oh, yes. I not only know how to drive, but also how to sail boats and planes. Su Yi grabbed a key casually and threw it to Natasha. Okay, from today on, you can temporarily become my housekeeper. Responsible for driving and taking care of my daily life. Walking. The situation with Natasha has already been discussed between the two. Natasha herself came from an orphan background, although she had family members. But it is also just a family that is temporarily combined for tasks. Everyone has no blood relationship. It is unclear where those people are and whether they are still alive on either side today. So Natasha didn't blindly look for people either. But instead, I plan to follow Su Ye's side first and experience a different life from the previous life of a Black Widow. In the original Marvel movie universe, she also did the same. It wasn't until after the third year of the American team that they passively began searching for their previous family members. It's not necessarily true how deep their relationship is. Okay, young master. Natasha took the car key and stood up to take a look at the broken clothes on the side. Well, young master, I may need a set of clothes. Do you have any recommendations or special preferences? For example, a maid pretends to be something. Su Ye's eyes lit up. This is actually a good proposal. Who can refuse cosplay? It's not in vain that Su Yi rescued Natasha alone from so many black widows. Being able to think about one's own thoughts is indeed quite charming. I like it. An hour and a half later, Su Yi arrived at the school by car. It didn't take too long on the road. Mainly before going out, seeing someone wearing a suit and white shirt. Natasha dressed in an OL outfit. Su Yi couldn't resist. New book, seeking flowers. Seeking evaluation tickets. Seeking comments. Seeking monthly tickets. Seeking rewards. Seeking everything. 007, Zhongcheng High School, Su Ye's basic plan. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After tugging at the review all night, Chapter 6 still hasn't been released, worried. Carol wouldn't wear such OL clothing. It has always been the uniform of the Carey Starfleet that remains unchanged for thousands of years. Although the uniform is very slim-fitting, it also has a good hand feel. However, reading too much can still lead to aesthetic fatigue. Later on, Su Yi couldn't bear it and designed a swimsuit-style battle suit for her. As the exclusive battle uniform for two people fighting together. Image in Chapter 2, however, besides that, Carol is unwilling to change into other clothes. I feel like it's a waste of time. She didn't want to waste her time on picking and changing clothes when she returned to Earth. For Carol's behavior of treating the Earth like a hotel and dedicating himself wholeheartedly to the cause of the entire universe. Su Yi is very incomprehensible. But he couldn't sleep on her and make her give up this idea. In the end, we can only let it go. Let her go out and play around. Anyway, he is guarding the Earth. Su Yi now possesses the ability of Captain Marvel. Wait until later to absorb the abilities of several powerful female heroes or female villains. Our strength will take another step forward. At that time, whether or not there is Carol will be the same for the Earth. For Su Yi now, there are female heroes or villains in the MCU who can continue to enhance his abilities. Actually, there aren't many either. Little Witch Wanda must be one. But she is still a child attending kindergarten now. That's not a problem starting in 3 years anymore. It's simply disrespectful. And there's also Hela. Crush the hammer of Thor with bare hands, and harden the entire existence of Sertel. For Su Yi, it is also a big supplement. But the problem is, Hela is still locked up. Unless Su Yi goes directly to kill Odin now, it will be difficult to find a chance to stir-fry Hyla. Except for Wanda and Hyla. Who else are the powerful female heroes or villains that Su Yi can easily access now? Suddenly, a bald figure appeared in Su Ye's mind. Gu Yi. Thinking about Gu Yi's appearance, Su Yi couldn't help but shiver. Well, forget it. Su Ye's appetite is not that good. Moreover, Gu Yi is the guardian of dimensions. Su Yi is also afraid that she will see the problem on herself. After all, his demonic physique is somewhat strange. If Gu Yi is identified as a dimensional invasion, come and give him a just judgment. So Su Yi will also be more difficult to do. Admitting defeat is definitely not acceptable. But going to war directly with Gu Yi does not align with Su Ye's self-positioning and values. If you don't want to cause a big dispute, you probably have to use the charm skill against Gu Yi, and this path is optional. In this case, the problem goes back. Shaking his head, Su Yi was ready to temporarily put this issue aside. Anyway, it's only 2005 now. There are still several years before Iron Man emerges and marks the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe era. He has enough time to slow down the waves. After arriving at school, Su Yi asked Natasha to drive away first. I entered school alone. Suyi is not afraid to let Natasha leave on her own. There are many SHID agents in New York. Wherever Natasha went, she could not escape Suye's eyeliner. After entering the school, Suyi quickly followed a male classmate behind him. Hi, Wild. Good morning. This boy is very tall and handsome. However, in terms of overall temperament, it still lacks some meaning compared to Suyi. Hi, Harry. Suyi greeted with a smile. This handsome guy is one of his few friends in school. Harry Osborne. It's the wealthy second generation from Ashi Group. The school where Suyi is located is called Zhongcheng High School. It's the Zhongcheng High School that has produced many wise people. With a background like Nick Fury, Suyi can choose any school in New York. And Suyi naturally chose Zhongcheng High School, a prestigious school with many celebrities. After entering high school, he was surprised to find out those celebrities are actually classmates with themselves. Peter Parker, the receiver. Green tea bitch Mary Jane. Rich second generation Harry Osborne. Also, the independent and upright young lady who excels in both character and education, Gwen Stacy. This world is not a pure Marvel movie universe, but rather a fusion monster. His classmate Peter Parker is not simply the first or second generation Spider-Man. It's also a fusion monster. In the future, heroes from other universes may appear in this world. Like X-Men, even DC heroes. So Suye's idea of improving his own strength. Perhaps it will be achieved soon. Storm Girl, Phoenix Girl, Wonder Woman, and Superwoman. Suyi should have many more options. And Suyi is also preparing to investigate the whereabouts of these people purposefully through his own development of special agents. If you can find it, you can contact it in advance. Prepare for future improvement. On the side of Zhongcheng High School, Suyi himself is a star student. Tall figure, handsome appearance, sandbag-sized fist. Plus, the racial talent for taking exams. Directly crush local students from all angles and across the board. What is the best debater in a debate game, the quarterback of a rugby team, and the star player of a basketball team? In front of Suyi, they were all younger brothers. Those future star students have also become his younger brothers. This has become Suye's basic territory. Including the Lightning Thompson who bullied Peter Parker for 4 years, he also became his horse early on. The most important thing I think about every day is how to please Suyi, this big shot. Harry is also similar. Although he is a second-generation wealthy man, he is completely inferior to Suyi. However, he was originally an easygoing person and usually does not compete or grab. So I don't mind either. After saying hello, the two walked side by side towards the classroom. Chatting aimlessly. Quickly, the silly Lightning Thompson also followed suit. Good morning, boss. Thompson didn't come alone, he was accompanied by a girl with red hair. Mary Jane. This Mary Jane has a much softer appearance than the movie version, making her a very durable type. And the key is, the figure is really good. Meaty. At first glance, it is the type of bumper that is very full and collision resistant. If it's just about appearance, Suyi doesn't mind having a conversation with her. However, this woman's personality is too green tea. In name, she is Thompson's girlfriend, but in reality, she admires Harry's family background. At the same time, he also treated Peter as a spare tire and a receiver, hanging on all the time. This makes Suye's senses very bad towards her. And Suye's interest in driving used cars is really not very high. So my attitude towards her has always been neither salty nor indifferent. Mary Jane clearly saw Suye's attitude as well. But she didn't think it was disobedient. Mary Jane is determined to become a Broadway female celebrity. As a female celebrity, the first lesson to get started is to learn to be shameless. So, although Suyi has a cold attitude towards her, But Mary Jane was already calculating in her heart how to use Thompson as a springboard. Climb up this big tree in Sui. 008, plan to build Iron Man. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. A few people chatted and walked towards the classroom. On the way, Mary Jane tried to squeeze between Suyi and Thompson. Make some physical contact with Suyi. Unfortunately, it was not successful. Thompson is a dual star player for both the basketball and rugby school teams. Defensive awareness and ability, strong beyond words. With him standing next to Suyi, 10 Mary Jane couldn't squeeze in. And Thompson blocking Mary Jane was not afraid of losing her nominal girlfriend. More importantly, I am afraid of losing my position next to Suyi. He also knows that in Suye's heart, Harry and Peter have a higher position. He has already slipped to third place and can no longer be pushed to fourth place by Mary Jane. When a few people entered the classroom, there were already many people sitting inside. Peter greeted a few people from a distance. However, Gwen, who was sitting not far from him, frowned. When Suyi passed by her side, Gwen whispered a sentence. I will definitely surpass you in this test. The pouting and angry expression was like that of a primary school student who would speak harshly after the King Slayer was abused. Suyi nodded nonchalantly. Good luck to you. Compared to exams, Suyi has never been afraid. Before crossing, he was a small-town swot, a legendary exam freak. The body that has been transformed by Carol's energy has greatly improved its memory and understanding. Gwen's desire to beat Suyi in the exam is simply a pipe dream. Perhaps, on a different battlefield, she still has a chance to defeat Suyi. No. She only has a chance to flip over to Suyi. It's impossible to win. Quickly, the teacher walked into the classroom and announced something. Tomorrow, we will have extracurricular activities to visit Columbia University's biology laboratory and visit animal and plant specimens. Columbia University's genetic engineering is very impressive. There are many gene-induced mutations and cross-species gene transfer products in the laboratory there. You should visit carefully, it will be very helpful for your learning. The teacher's words did not arouse much interest from the students. In their view, this was just a visit to a university laboratory, and they had experienced it many times before. But Suyi knew that the gears of fate were about to start working. The Columbia University laboratory is the starting point for Peter Parker, the Spider-Man. Meanwhile, Suyi also confirmed one thing. Although there is Gwen in this world, the character and plot of Peter in front of him are still quite similar to the first Spider-Man. Thinking of this, Suyi couldn't help but turn his head to look at Harry. The first generation of Harry can also be considered difficult to calm in the eyes of movie fans. Handsome, humble, and friendly. Some have the fate of a wealthy second generation, but they do not have the illnesses of a wealthy second generation. I have given my heart to Peter even more. Even though it was later blackened out, in the end, it resolutely chose justice. But in the end, they only ended up with a broken family and a dying life. Now that Harry has recognized Suyi as a big shot. So Suyi naturally wouldn't let such a thing happen again. And there's also old Osborn's place that needs attention. Thinking of this, Suyi directly took out his phone and sent a message to the offline staff of the Divine Shield Bureau. Soon, I received a reply. The military has arranged an itinerary to inspect new weapons and equipment at the Ashi Group. Mainly single-soldier aircraft and flight suits. In addition, the Ashi Group is secretly copying super soldier potions. However, the medication has not been finalized and there are still some obvious issues. This is the efficiency of the Divine Shield Bureau. In minutes, I scraped off Norman Osborn completely. After replying with a follow-up message, Suyi put away his phone. If nothing unexpected happens, the Eagle Sauce military will express dissatisfaction with their research results when visiting the Ashi Group this time. Then forced Norman Osborn to take risks. Directly use unfinished super soldier potions on oneself. Then he transformed into a green demon and started doing various things. From the perspective of Eagle Sauce, the Green Devil is a disruptor of order. It is a social anxiety factor. A tumor that must be removed. But for Su Yi, that's not the case. Eagle Sauce is unstable and has nothing to do with him. The future and hope of humanity are on the other side of the earth. So Su Yi just needs to keep the danger away from that side. Guarding the earth is just a matter of passing by. Eagle Sauce, this land is even more lively if it's a little messy. So after much thought, let Norman Osborn do it himself. Su Yi just needs to take care of his little brother and not let Harry turn black. However, when it comes to single soldier flying equipment, Su Yi naturally remembered Iron Man's iron battle suit. There are still many years left until Tony Stark is kidnapped. In theory, Iron Man should not have appeared until many years later. But Su Yi didn't want to wait that long. Before crossing over, he had always longed for the equivalent of Iron Man. Especially the kind that can be worn and still shine. Unfortunately, it's too expensive to afford. Now, Su Yi has the opportunity to make this thing. The Ashi group of the Harry family has technological research and manufacturing capabilities. Su Yi can provide design ideas. In terms of energy, it's also easy to solve. Natasha, who has just surrendered, is quite familiar with the environment and situation of the De Mao family. Can she go to De Mao's house to find the handmade gung? Oh no, it's Ivan Vank. That is the villain whip of Iron Man 2. Although this product looks rough, there is something real in its mind. Bring him and his still-alive father together. The old man was a scientist who was on par with Howard Stark back then. It's a pity to die in obscurity like this. Take care of the old man's health, and then stuff them into the factory with his son, screw and coil them. As long as the food and good wine are open for supply. These two poor old people who have been eating dirt in Siberia for decades still have to be grateful for their hard work. They feel embarrassed if they don't work hard for more than a decade. And once the steel armor is ready, Su Yi just needs to leave one for collection. Iron Man's job, but he doesn't want to do it. This kind of public display still requires a conspicuous bag to do. He is behind the scenes, quietly becoming the mastermind behind the scenes. Iron Man is, after all, the iconic character who opened the Marvel film universe. This candidate must be carefully considered. Harry definitely can't. Too young, without that steady aura. And in Su Ye's opinion, this person should preferably come from a flower grower, or at least be of Chinese descent. Such people are not many in his circle of friends. We need to carefully consider it. In the evening, as soon as Su Yi left the school gate, a car stopped beside him. The car window opened, revealing Maria Hill's face. Get in the car. 009, everyone gets drunk without getting drunk. I joined the company. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Yi made a gesture to Natasha in the distance, asking her to leave on her own. Then he directly got into Maria Hill's car. Sister, why did you come? Su Yi smiled and asked. Maria Hill gave him a blank glance, with a hint of resentment in her eyes. How are you asking? Where did you go last night? I didn't come back all night. Do you know I really want to? Cough, I'm worried about you. If something happens to you, how can I explain it to Director Fry? Su Yi immediately became happy. What do you mean? It's like 3 autumn days since we last saw each other. We haven't had a day yet, haven't we? However, Su Yi saw through it but did not reveal it. Laughing and giving a ha-ha. I went to play with my classmates. Besides, I'm such a big person, what can happen to me? This is New York, an international metropolis, the lighthouse of the world. The city with the most sound rule of law, the safest society, and the highest index of people's happiness in the world. I'm here, how could something happen? After Suyi finished speaking, Maria Hill gave him a straight glance. Do you believe what you said? Suyi shrugged his shoulders. It doesn't matter if I believe it or not, anyway someone believes it. After joking, Maria Hill suddenly asked. Have you been dating your little girlfriend recently? Suyi shook his head. Where did I get my little girlfriend? I'm a little yellow person, you know. Those self-righteous locals in school won't look up to me. Is that right? Maria Hill glanced sideways at Suyi. So since that's the case, would you like to give it a try and date someone? Suyi suddenly became happy. Sister, would you like to introduce me to my girlfriend? My requirements are not high, it would be best to have a physique like yours, sister. If my appearance can match half of yours, that's enough. This flattery, neither light nor heavy, immediately made Maria Hill feel very comfortable. However, she managed to suppress her pride. Is my figure considered good in the eyes of young people like you? Moreover, I'm not good looking either. Suyi suddenly became unhappy. Sister, you're a bit self-deprecating now. Didn't you see those classmates' eyes at the entrance of our school just now? They wished they could squeeze open and get in the car to take my place. Sister, you have no idea that you are such a cool and cute, and sa type. How powerful is it among young people? This time Suyi didn't hide it either. Flattery goes directly to the intensity. Take pictures of Maria Hill and she's almost flying. I'm not as good as you said. Alright, don't boast, I'll treat you to a big meal. As she spoke, she drove the car to Times Square and took Suyi to a high-end restaurant. Suyi is not very clear about the specific level of this restaurant. Anyway, every dish is the kind of big plate with only a small lump in the middle. A plate that can only take 1 or 2 bites. Maria Hill even ordered a bottle of red wine from an unknown age. Pulling Suyi kaka is just a drink. Sister, you still have to drive later. Why don't we stop drinking? Those who drive without drinking. Suyi pretended to advise. Maria Hill waved her hand indifferently. It's okay, there's a hotel room upstairs and we can't drive, so we won't go back. Su Yenny whispered to himself, good guy. You have already made it clear to me that you are determined to do great things, right? Okay, since you've said that, I won't be affected anymore. Hulette, you are my sister. After a meal, Suyi didn't have much to eat, and Maria Hill didn't take a few bites either. But both of them were drunk. Everyone gets drunk without getting drunk. Then, they helped each other up the stairs. Everything is so natural and natural soon, Suyi confirmed something from Maria Hill and Natasha. People with different leg lengths can indeed accomplish different tasks. Short legs are still Natasha's fatal flaw. However, although the stir-fry is delicious, Suyi also has some regrets. Natasha and Maria Hill are both ordinary people and have not been able to provide Suyi with any new abilities. On the contrary, I gained some energy from Suyi to strengthen myself. Does Suyi feel like he's losing money? A day without words. The next morning, Maria Hill greeted Suyi as if nothing had happened. Good morning, did you sleep well last night? Do you need me to take a leave for you and give you a good rest here? Sure enough, it's not inferior to my sister. This adaptive ability is just right. Suyi smiled and thanked Maria Hill for her kindness. He can't take leave today. He also needs to go to the University of Columbia to witness Peter Parker's famous appearance as Spider-Man. Moreover, Suyi had heard a saying before his travels. It is not a coincidence that Peter was bitten into Spider-Man by a super spider. But it is inevitable. It is a mysterious power and supernatural deity belief. The spider totem. That chose Peter Parker. So, no matter how many people pass by the super spider, the last one bitten must be Peter Parker. Suyi was full of curiosity about this. He didn't understand how the selection of this spider totem was made. At the same time, I also want to try to interfere with this choice a bit. Let's see if we can influence this choice with our current full version of Captain Marvel's strength. It doesn't matter if you can't interfere. Anyway, it's just for fun. Saying goodbye to Maria Hill, Sui sat in Natasha's car and went straight to Columbia University. On the way, Natasha's gaze towards Sui was filled with resentment. Although she didn't speak, Sui could feel the towering resentment. Sui couldn't help but frown. Unexpectedly daring to vent resentment towards oneself. It seems that I overestimated Natasha's freedom. Sure enough, the subordinates and employees should not be too idle. Otherwise, it will be easy to encounter problems. Natasha, I need you to do something. Upon hearing Su Ye's words, Natasha immediately sat upright and her face regained its serious expression. Please give orders, sir. The habit of obeying orders that has been cultivated in Red House for many years cannot be easily changed without mental control. Suyi took out a document. Above is what he ordered the agents of the Divine Shield Bureau to offline and retrieve from the database. This person's name is Anthony Vank. I have participated in the design and construction of Stark Industries' arc reactor. He also has a son named Ivanko. Your task is to find them and bring them back alive. As for what kind of approach and method you will adopt, I will not make any demands. Additionally, I will arrange a group of special agents from the Divine Shield Bureau to assist you in completing this mission. How are you, confident? Agent Romanov. Natasha was stunned for a moment. Me. Agent. Shield Bureau. Suyi nodded. That's right, starting from today. You are a special agent of the National Land Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau, abbreviated as the Divine Shield Bureau. The International Security Council belonging to United Village. The goal is to strive for a lifetime to build a community with a shared future for mankind. How about it? Do you feel a solemn and sacred sense of mission rushing towards you? 010, Gwen Bitten, Spider-Man Born. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Suyi didn't finish speaking, but Natasha had already started trembling. Since the disintegration of Mao Xiong, the Red House has been defined as a terrorist force. Over the years, as a Black Widow of the Red House, she has done many shady things for the organization. Natasha is a pitiful creature with no family, no love, and even no affirmation. But after Suyi rescued her, he not only did not punish her. Instead, it gave her warmth and bestowed upon her a great mission to protect all humanity. How could Natasha not be moved by this? At this moment, Natasha was no longer a butler who relied on Su Ye's side and wanted to eat stir-fried vegetables. But rather a loyal subordinate who died as a confidant. If Suyi has a system panel. At this point, Natasha's loyalty is likely to break through 90 directly. She even wished she could stop by the roadside now, and after sending Suyi to Columbia University, Natasha hurriedly went to carry out the mission. As soon as Suyi got off the car, 3 people greeted him next to him. Boss. Good morning. Thompson is always the first to say hello. Behind him, Harry spoke with a hint of jealousy. The sister who saw you off this morning is not the same as the one who picked you up last night. And both of them are so beautiful, so hot. No wonder you're not looking for a girlfriend at school. It turns out you don't like these inexperienced high school students. Peter is taking photos of the car going away beside him. Beside Thompson, Mary Jane suddenly vented her anger. In terms of chest length, she does not have any advantage in front of her 2 sisters except for a little bit of flesh. And just then, a sudden mockery came from beside. Don't like female classmates. It seems like everyone wants to stick to you upside down. Don't be so proud, you don't have anything remarkable. Big and small sister Gwen walked past with pursed lips. His head lifted high, like a proud peacock. Suyi looked at Harry and the others. Why does Gwen mock me every day? Did I offend her? Or did she come to relatives? Harry and the others exchanged a glance, followed by complex expressions on their faces. Is there a possibility that she actually likes you but doesn't dare to admit it? That's why we use this method to brush our presence and attract your attention. Peter withdrew his camera and turned to continue speaking. After all, you are the best boy in our class, and even the entire school. I don't believe there are girls who can resist your charm. If I were a girl, I would also like you. After Peter finished speaking, Harry and Thompson nodded in agreement. Suyi gave Peter a rather surprised look. I didn't expect this kid to be so talkative. I feel a bit embarrassed to disrupt your Spider-Man debut ceremony. Quickly, a few people entered the laboratory of Columbia University under the guidance of the teacher. Just like in movies, there are many animal and plant samples here. The most common among them is spiders. And, when the host introduces the super gene spider, Suyi indeed discovered that the super spider in one of the cages had disappeared without a trace. The students are all listening attentively there. But Suyi's attention was no longer focused on the host. But instead, he began to search around and focused on observing Peter's surroundings. He soon discovered. Above Peter's head, a colorful spider was slowly descending while hanging its silk. If nothing unexpected happens, it will just fall into Peter's hand. After some thought, Suyi walked over and pushed Peter aside a bit, standing in his position. How about it? Did you get a lot of footage? Suyi chatted with Peter while observing the spiders falling from his head. I want to see if it will perform a snake skin walk, unexpectedly and reasonably, and land on Peter next to it. Peter, however, knew nothing about it and replied thoughtfully. I want to take more photos, after all, opportunities are rare. That's true. As Suyi spoke, the spider above her head was also falling at a constant speed. There are no signs of turning. A few seconds later, it actually landed directly on Suyi's shoulder. Suyi suddenly felt a little puzzled. Have you been deceived? This Spider-Man is not the choice of a spider totem. Is it really random? If it were to give itself a breath now, will I acquire the abilities of Spider-Man? Spider-Man's abilities may not be as strong as Captain Marvel's abilities. But you can also do some reinforcement, don't waste it. However, being bitten by a spider, Su Ambi felt somewhat uneasy. I don't know if this spider is male or female, what are you doing? Just as Su Yi was struggling, the troublemaker Gwen came over again. What are you holding in your hand? A spider. How did you take out the spider specimen from the box? As she spoke, she reached out to retrieve the spider from Su Ye's hand. And then Gwen let out a scream, but there was already an extra wound on his finger. The students heard the shout and looked towards Gwen one after another. Su Yi was a bit confused. The spider didn't bite Peter, instead it bit Gwen. So, it's not Spider-Man Peter Parker who blends into this world. But is it the spider Gwen? Just then, behind Su Yi, suddenly came a muffled groan. Sui turned around and saw Peter shake his back of hand, shaking off a spider. Good guy. Su Yi is a straightforward guy. He never expected that two spiders would appear. And both Gwen and Peter were actually bitten. So, is this world going to have both Spider-Man and Spider-Gwen at the same time? If that's the case, for Su Yi, it is also a good thing. This way, he won't have to be bitten by spiders and can still acquire the abilities of Spider-Man. And this opportunity lies with Gwen. Thinking of this, Su Yi directly pushed aside his classmates in front of him. Step forward and pick up Gwen horizontally, then quickly walk towards the outside of the laboratory. The toxicity of these spiders is unknown and cannot be played with as children. I'll take you to the hospital. Su Yi spoke while walking. Holding 100 pounds of Gwen with sturdy arms, it was like holding a kitten. I don't feel any difficulty at all. In Su Ye's arms, Gwen originally wanted to struggle for a while. But feeling the strength of Su Ye's arms, she suddenly lost her strength. But she still lifted her head and looked at Su Ye's face. You're so worried about me. Do you like me? Su Ye. How do I respond to this? Do I like your big pores, or do I like your Zilongbao not worth mentioning? Good grades and a large number of fans are the shining stars of many people. Can this be shameless?